At about 5:30 on October 11th, Peter Chadwick had dialed 911 in San Diego.
Okay, so where exactly is she?
What?
Where is she?
They took her.
Who took her?
The guy broke into my house. He drove me here. He had a friend. They've gone in a pickup truck.
Okay, so your wife is dead.
She's dead.
We immediately dispatched and sent 2 detectives down there.
So we started driving as fast as we could to San Diego. We arrived on scene early in the morning. Peter was sitting in a police car with an officer talking. When I met with him, he was very quiet. He was yawning, and he didn't have a ton of questions for me.
He told them when he was out driving around during the day on October 10th, he picked up a male Hispanic, he believed his name was Juan, at his old business. And he took Juan to his house in Newport Coast to give a paint estimate, an interior paint estimate.
He left Juan alone upstairs, and Peter went downstairs. A moment or two later, while Peter's downstairs, he hears QC yelling, "Pete, Pete." Peter runs upstairs and finds Juan strangling QC while she's in the bathtub.
He runs over and he tries to save her. He doesn't get very descriptive on how he tries to save her.
And then he is forced off of her by Juan, and then he says Juan kills her and drowns her in the tub. He then states that Juan forces him to clean up the bathroom, clean up blood, clean up water, actually change his clothes before being ordered to pick up QC's body, put it in the back of his SUV, and drive from the scene.
And then he further describes that right before he dialed 911, they met up with another male Hispanic in a truck. He says that he's now ordered to help them take Q's body, his wife's body, out of their personal car and then load it into this truck. And then this truck leaves, potentially going to Mexico.
Peter had scratch marks, fresh scratch marks on his neck and shoulder area. It looked like he had a small amount of dried blood around his hands and fingertips. So those kind of things indicate, obviously, that he'd be involved in some kind of altercation. Those were questions I followed up with him. Hey, during your altercations with Juan, did these kind of things happen? Were you scratched, et cetera? He was never able to provide an answer or response to those for why he had those scratch marks there on his hands and his fingers. Peter stated that he had been driving with Juan from Anaheim to Newport Coast. During that trip, he was stopped by a police officer who told him to move along from the side of the road. We were able to contact that police officer who remembered the stop, had recorded the license plate, and remembered telling Peter to move along. He also remembered that for sure Peter was the only person in the vehicle. Juan or anyone else, there was no one else inside that vehicle. And for us, that was the first open and shut lie that he had told us that I was sure about.
They tried to confirm everything that he was saying, and at point by point, every aspect of it, where they were able to locate a video camera, or they were able to find a cell phone record, or in this case, interview a California Highway Patrol officer that contacted him, his story kept falling apart. Put the pieces together on this thing, it became very apparent very early that Mr. Chadwick was responsible for his wife's death. So we charged him with murder.
What never ceases to amaze me is that people with financial means and some level of education seem to think they can get away with it. That 911 call was an insult. That set cops on the right track. Right away they said, you know what? This entitled, spoiled bastard is the main suspect.
Within a few days, we got information about where Q's body was. We sent a detective down to the location, which was down back in San Diego, in an extremely rural area.
One of the first dumpsters I checked, I found full to the brim with garbage, and we started digging. And when I was going through the dumpster, I saw a light green blanket, which Peter had said Juan had forced him to wrap QC's body in and carry out to the car. I saw the blanket and kind of got a sinking feeling that this might be the one. It was a petite Asian female. There was some bruising. I was confident it was QC.
I ran into the neighbor from across the street, and I could tell she'd been crying, and she said, QC's dead, and Peter's in jail. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So, yeah. You know, I guess people are capable of anything. I don't know. It's terrible.
The pathologist declared that Q was killed based on strangulation.
Not drowning, as Peter had said.
I can't imagine what it takes to strangle someone and have them struggle to survive and scratch you. He had those scrape marks. I mean, imagine looking in the eye, the mother of your children, and doing this to her while she struggles and gasps for air and claws for life and survival. He had a chance to turn back many times, and he didn't. He kept choosing to continue.
He posted bail. We took all his passports. He immediately moved up to Santa Barbara to stay with his personal family. And then he was continued access to the kids through Q's family. After arraignment, we obviously had now time to really dive into the investigation, really dive into the family, really try to get the motive potentially behind this homicide.
You have this idyllic home with this idyllic family, with these nice kids who are going to good schools, and then you get into the underbelly of what's really happening between these two people.
I don't think somebody just out of the blue goes off and does this.